Have you ever noticed that the loudest person in the room usually gets the promotion, while the one who actually knows what they're talking about gets ignored? There's a reason for this, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. We live in a world that has quietly turned wisdom into a liability and ignorance into an asset. Think about it for a moment. The algorithms that run our lives don't reward depth, they reward clicks. The systems that determine success don't measure understanding, they measure speed. The culture that shapes our minds doesn't celebrate contemplation, it celebrates certainty. And here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. Our entire modern infrastructure is designed to elevate simplicity over complexity, reaction over reflection, and noise over nuance. The wise person who pauses to think, who considers multiple perspectives, who admits they don't have all the answers, is systematically punished by a society that demands immediate answers, absolute confidence, and viral moments. Meanwhile, the person who speaks without thinking, who offers simple solutions to complex problems, who never doubts their own brilliance, rises to the top like cream in a jar. This isn't an accident. This is by design, and the design is so subtle, so woven into the fabric of everything we do, that we've stopped questioning it. We've accepted it as natural. But it's not natural, it's engineered. And once you understand the engineering, you'll start to see why the smartest people you know often feel the most alienated, the most frustrated, the most exhausted by the world around them. Let me take you back for a moment to a different time. Ancient Athens had a word for this phenomenon. They called it sophistry, the art of making the weaker argument appear stronger through rhetoric and performance. The sophists were the influencers of their day, the ones who could manipulate crowds, win debates, and accumulate wealth and power, not through wisdom but through the appearance of wisdom. And Socrates, the actual wise man, was sentenced to death for pointing this out. He was too dangerous because he asked questions that had no simple answers. He made people uncomfortable with their certainty. He revealed that the emperor had no clothes, and society couldn't tolerate that. Fast forward 2,000 years, and the pattern repeats itself with stunning precision. Our modern world has become a giant stage for sophistry, except now it's turbocharged by technology. Social media rewards the person who can distill a complex issue into a punchy tweet, not the person who understands the issue deeply. Corporate culture rewards the person who can present confidently in a meeting, not the person who spent weeks analyzing the data. The education system rewards the person who memorizes and regurgitates, not the person who questions and synthesizes. We've built a civilization that mistakes performance for competence, confidence for knowledge, and visibility for value. The wise person understands that most questions don't have simple answers. They know that reality is paradoxical, that truth is often found in the tension between opposites, that the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know. But this kind of thinking doesn't fit into a TikTok video. It doesn't make for a good soundbite. It doesn't go viral. So the wise person is left behind, while the confident fool marches forward, collecting followers, promotions, and influence. And here's where it gets even more insidious. The system doesn't just ignore wisdom, it actively punishes it. Because wisdom is dangerous to systems that rely on compliance, consumption, and certainty. The wise person asks why. They question authority. They see through marketing. They resist manipulation. They can't be easily controlled because they think for themselves. And a society built on selling things to people, on extracting attention and labor, on maintaining hierarchies of power, cannot afford to have too many people who think for themselves. So what does it do? It creates a culture where thinking too much is seen as a weakness, where asking too many questions is seen as being difficult, where admitting you don't know something is seen as incompetence. The message is clear. Shut up, stop thinking, and get in line. Be certain, be simple, be loud, and you'll be rewarded. Maybe you've felt this yourself. Maybe you've sat in a meeting and watched someone spout complete nonsense with absolute confidence, and everyone nodded along. Maybe you've seen someone with half your knowledge get twice your recognition because they knew how to package their mediocrity with charisma. Maybe you've been told you think too much, that you're being too negative, that you need to just believe and stop questioning. And maybe, just maybe, you started to doubt yourself. You started to wonder if there was something wrong with you for not being able to just accept things at face value, for not being able to turn off the part of your brain that sees contradictions and complexities everywhere you look. Let me tell you something right now. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not too sensitive or too complicated or too much. You're awake in a world that rewards sleep. And that's a lonely place to be. If this is resonating with you, if you're nodding along and feeling seen for the first time in a long time, then stay with me, because what comes next is going to show you not just why this is happening, but what you can do about it. And if you want to continue this journey of seeing through the illusions that keep most people trapped, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started. Here's what the system doesn't want you to know. The reason modern society rewards the dumb and punishes the wise is because intelligence and wisdom threaten the status quo. Let me break this down. Our economy is built on consumption. It requires people to constantly buy things they don't need, to chase status symbols, to confuse wants with needs. A wise person sees through advertising. They understand that happiness doesn't come from products. They consume less, which means they participate less in the machine. They're bad for business. Our political systems are built on polarization. They require people to pick a side, to see the world in black and white, to treat complex issues as simple battles between good and evil. A wise person sees nuance. They understand that most political issues involve trade-offs, that both sides often have valid points, that reality resists binary thinking. They're bad for ratings. They don't generate clicks. They don't fuel outrage. Our social structures are built on hierarchy. They require people to accept their place, to compete for scraps, to believe that those at the top deserve to be there. A wise person questions hierarchy. They see how much of success is luck, timing, and systemic advantage. They refuse to worship at the altar of meritocracy. They're bad for morale. They make others uncomfortable. So the system has evolved sophisticated mechanisms to marginalize wisdom and elevate ignorance. It does this through several strategies. First, it creates artificial time pressure. Everything must be decided now, answered now, produced now. There's no time to think deeply, because thinking deeply takes time. The wise person who says, "I need to consider this," is immediately at a disadvantage to the fool who says, "I have the answer." Second, it rewards confidence over accuracy. Studies have shown that people who are wrong but confident are more likely to be believed and promoted than people who are right but uncertain. We've been conditioned to associate confidence with competence, even though they're completely unrelated. Third, it punishes vulnerability. The wise person knows that wisdom requires admitting what you don't know, being open to being wrong, showing humility. But in a world that sees humility as weakness, this becomes a death sentence. The fool who never admits error, who doubles down on every mistake, who projects invincibility, survives and thrives. Fourth, it creates echo chambers. Social media algorithms show you more of what you already believe. Corporate cultures promote people who fit in. Educational systems reward conformity. The wise person who challenges prevailing assumptions, who thinks differently, who doesn't fit neatly into a box, gets filtered out. And here's the most brilliant part of the con. The system has convinced us that this is how things should be, that the cream rises to the top, that success equals merit, that if you're struggling, it's because you're not good enough, not because the game is rigged. We blame ourselves for not thriving in a system designed to crush thoughtfulness and reward thoughtlessness. But what if I told you there's another way? What if I told you that understanding this game doesn't mean you have to play it on its terms? The ancient Stoics had a concept they called the dichotomy of control. They said you can't control external events, but you can control your response to them. You can't change the fact that society rewards ignorance, but you can choose not to participate in that game. You can build a different kind of success, one measured not by external validation, but by internal integrity. This is where wisdom becomes not a liability, but a superpower. But it requires a fundamental shift in how you define winning. If you define winning as getting the most likes, the biggest paycheck, the highest title, then yes, wisdom will often be a handicap. But if you define winning as living authentically, as doing meaningful work, as building genuine connections, as maintaining your sanity in an insane world, then wisdom becomes essential. The wise person learns to operate in the system without being of the system. They learn when to speak and when to stay silent. They learn how to translate their depth into language that others can understand without dumbing themselves down. They learn to find their tribe, the other wise people who are also navigating this upside-down world. They create pockets of sanity in the chaos. But here's what you need to understand. This path is harder. It requires courage, because you'll often be misunderstood. It requires patience, because your kind of success doesn't happen overnight. It requires faith, because you'll be surrounded by fools who seem to be winning while you feel like you're struggling. But there's a secret that makes it all worthwhile, and it's a secret that the sophists of our age will never understand. The fool who rises to the top on confidence and simplicity is forever fragile. They live in constant fear of being exposed. They can never rest because their entire identity is built on a performance. They accumulate external success but remain internally empty. They're rich in everything except the things that actually matter. The wise person, on the other hand, builds something that can't be taken away. They develop a mind that sees clearly. They cultivate relationships based on authenticity. They create work that has meaning. They sleep well at night because they're not pretending to be something they're not. And here's the ultimate irony. In the long run, wisdom wins, not in the metrics that society celebrates, but in the metrics that actually determine the quality of a human life. Think about the people you truly admire, not the celebrities or billionaires, but the people who've actually impacted your life. Chances are they weren't the loudest or the most confident. They were the ones who listened, who understood, who saw you clearly. They were wise, and that wisdom touched you in a way that no amount of flashy success ever could. This is the game within the game. Society rewards the dumb in the short term, yes, but wisdom is playing a longer game. It's investing in assets that compound over decades. Character, understanding, depth, genuine connection. These things might not make you Instagram famous, but they'll make you actually happy. And happiness, real happiness, is the rarest commodity in a world full of successful, miserable people. So here's your choice. You can spend your life trying to be simpler, louder, more certain, trying to fit yourself into a system that was never designed for people like you. You'll probably achieve some external success, but you'll hollow yourself out in the process. Or you can embrace your wisdom, even when it's punished. You can choose depth over breadth, meaning over metrics, authenticity over performance. You'll face more resistance, but you'll build something real. The wise have always been punished by societies that prefer comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. Socrates drank the hemlock. Galileo was tried by the Inquisition. Every generation has its heretics, the people who saw clearly and paid the price. But here's what history teaches us. Those heretics are eventually vindicated. Not in their lifetimes, perhaps, but vindicated nonetheless. Because truth has a weight to it that lies can never match. Wisdom has a gravity that pulls people in, even if it takes time. The fool's 15 minutes of fame fade, but wisdom echoes through the ages. You are not crazy for seeing that the emperor has no clothes. You're not broken for refusing to play a rigged game. You are not too much for thinking deeply in a shallow world. You are awake, and being awake is both a burden and a gift. The burden is that you see things others don't, and that can be isolating. The gift is that you're free in a way that most people will never be. Free from the tyranny of other people's opinions. Free from the need for external validation. Free to build a life of actual substance. So let me leave you with this. The next time you feel punished for your wisdom, remember that you're in good company. Every wise person who's ever lived has felt what you're feeling, and the next time you see a fool being rewarded, don't be bitter. Pity them, because they're winning a game that isn't worth winning. You're playing a different game entirely, one with stakes that actually matter. And in that game, wisdom isn't a liability. It's the only thing that can save us. If this message resonated with you, if you felt seen and understood, then do me a favor. Hit that like button so this reaches other wise people who need to hear it. Drop a comment sharing your experience of being punished for thinking too deeply. And subscribe to this channel, because we're building a community of people who refuse to dumb themselves down for a world that's scared of depth. Share this with someone who needs to know they're not alone. The wise are rare, but we're out here, and together we're stronger than any system designed to silence us.